Most people mount their TV way too high.
And once it's up there, you're stuck staring at it like you're in the front row of a movie theater.
But is mounting it really that big of a deal? Or can the right height actually change your entire viewing experience?
Today we're going to show you exactly how high or low you're going to set your TV.
Let's do this. Well, welcome to today's episode, everyone. Well, we got a pretty exciting one, Ralph. We're getting actually into mounting a TV, and the reason why we decided to come up with this topic is because this TV behind me, we're actually going to be lowering it a couple of inches. We'll explain it later in the video of why we're lowering it, but like we said in the intro, you know, depending on how high or low can really have a huge effect on your viewing experience.
Absolutely, bro. I mean, I'm honestly, sometimes when you have your TV mounted too high, your neck starts to hurt and it's like painful and you're just like, okay, am I really actually sitting too low, or is the TV mounting too high, or is the TV too low and I'm sitting too high and I'm looking down, or like, what are we supposed to be doing over here, you know?
I think what we're going to do for this video, Ralph, is we're going to break this up into buckets. Yeah. The first part of the video, we're going to get into what really is the ideal height for a TV. Then we're going to get into like the nuances of each different type of configuration. So if you have a media console or a sound bar or a center channel from a home theater system, we'll get into that as well. And then other tips too, like if you're mounting it above a fireplace. But hopefully by the end of the video, hopefully we'll give you the solution for that. All right, Ralph, well, let's get into part one of the video, which is what is the ideal height for a TV? And this is kind of a universal rule or a simple rule, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, why don't you tell our viewers what that simple rule is?
Actually, the simple rule is the center of your TV should be where you're sitting down at eye level. You don't want to go anything lower, or you don't want to go anywhere higher, because like I said, what we're talking about before, you don't want that neck strain.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, regardless of the type of mount you have, whether it's a swivel mount or a tilting one, depending on what size TV you have, you could actually measure 42 to 48 inches from the floor. That should take you to about the center of the TV. So regardless if it's a 55, 65, 75, that's kind of the range, is 42 to 48 inches.
Yeah.
And like you said, the ideal spot for a TV is going to be right at eye level when you're seated. Another thing too, Ralph, I know this isn't really like height. It has to do with height, but it has to do with distance too, like viewing distance. I think this is important for people too. So what is typically like the universal range of like viewing distance depending on the size of the TV?
I'll give you my universal size. I have a 100-inch TV. I sit about 13 to about 15 feet away from my TV. The reason why is because it's a huge TV, right? So I want the immersion. But if you have a 55, you want to sit a little bit closer. You want to sit about 8 feet away from the 55-inch. Even if it's 75 inches, you want to go from like 9 to 10 feet away. Should give you that perfect spot, right? And that will give you the best viewing experience.
So that brings us to the next part, Ralph. And this is going to be probably the biggest part of the video, because not everybody's setups are created equal. People have a lot of different things. They have a TV media console underneath. They may have a sound bar. They may have a center channel. They might have other things like the core that's under the TV. And you don't necessarily want to be blocking any part of the TV area. Just to be totally honest with you all, we don't have our TV set up at the ideal or universal center line.
Absolutely.
Because we have things underneath that we have to consider. So Ralph, let's go ahead and talk about those.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with mine. I mean, honestly, like with my big TV that I have a huge center channel, right? I have that Arundel 1723 center. I stand it vertical. I'm not ideally center with my TV. My TV is actually sitting a lot higher. So the reason why I have it like that, because I want my center channel to be vertical. Even with that little console that I have underneath it, that's standing it, it's still, the center channel still in the view of the TV, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm going to show an old clip here of what I used to have here before. So my TV had enough clearance for my soundbar where it didn't obstruct the view. And I want to say that the bottom of the TV was barely kissing the very top of the soundbar. I wanted to have my TV low enough to where I didn't have that issue with, you know, neck strain or eye strain, whatever. Or the center line was actually more of the bottom third of the TV rather than being like dead on center. The other thing too is I have a tilt on that mount. So that's another huge tip too, is if you have to mount a little higher than normal, you can always adjust the tilt of your TV. Yeah. So if you angle it a little bit down, then you're really helping to compensate for that higher mounted, TV.
Absolutely, bro. Another thing I'm going to actually mention is that the wiring, right? So like if you have the wiring hanging down and you want to cover it up, if you don't want to put holes in your wall, you want to make sure that equal distance between the console and then your TV, so your wires are not showing, right? Unless wall mount and you have the wires, going through the wall and then coming back over, then you're okay. You can have some room to play in between that.
The TV that I have right here, that's my LG C3. Because we went with a newer media console, as we're showing here, now I have about it looks like almost close to like a foot gap. And even at the top of the soundbar and the bottom of the TV, I have a good 7-8 inch clearance between. What we're gonna try to do is we're actually gonna lower this TV. And I decided that I wanna lower it about 2 inches of where it is right now. Now, for a lot of you, you're thinking you might have too much gap between the soundbar and the TV. That's okay for me because number one, this soundbar, this is a Sonos Arc. It has the upward firing drivers for Atmos. I kind of want to just cover that gap slightly, but I think it looks fine with a little bit of wall showing. I think that's kind of a happy medium, and eventually maybe I might mount the soundbar against the wall. And when you're mounting a soundbar like this, you want to have like 4 inches of clearance between the soundbar and the bottom of the TV. All right, Ralph. Well, I think the next part of the video is mounting a TV above a fireplace or above higher decor than the typical media console, let's say like a buffet or a credenza or something like that. That wants your TV to get mounted much higher. I do actually have a perfect scenario to show this, and this is in another room. So why don't we go over to the other room?
Let's do it.
And we'll show our viewers what we're talking about. All right, everybody. So right now we're in a different room in my house, and sitting behind me is actually a Samsung frame art TV. And we did highlight this TV in a different video that we did. We'll put a card above us right now if you want to learn more about art TVs. But this TV is mounted much higher than a normal or a typical TV. So the typical rule of thumb for art is, you want to mount it center about 60 inches. So art usually sits much higher because you're standing and that's where the center of the line is.
Right.
Now with this TV, I didn't quite go 60 inches. I kind of split the difference of 58 inches, which I just felt like 60 was a little too high. And the reason for that is because this TV sits above a fake fireplace. And for most people, they have fireplaces, like real fireplaces, the mantles sit way higher than typical. And I've seen a lot of folks that are mounting their TVs above their fireplace because the fireplace is the centerpiece or kind of in the middle of the room.
Yep.
And that's kind of the best spot for a TV. In most situations, that's going to be a very high mounting spot, but you really have no choice. So for this one, it was just kind of one of those things where it was more aesthetic than it was for best viewing experience. That's kind of why I have 2 different TVs. One is more ideal for actual movie watching and video games. This one is more of, we wanted something in a different room that could blend in with the decor, looks nice, and it's really on art mode most of the time. But I left the gap the way it was is because for most people that are decorating, they usually decorate on their mantles or their fireplace, right? So you need a lot of space there. And when you're putting like a centerpiece on your mantle, you have like something that's typically 6-8 inches in height. You don't necessarily want to be blocking it, especially when you're ready to watch the TV. I mean, it can be kind of annoying, like take all the decor off the mantle. Aesthetically, it looks the best.
That's awesome, bro. But you know what, bro? It's something you forgot to mention. You got to consider this. If you have it too high or too low, you're going to lose picture quality. That's the one thing about these TVs is that no matter where you're sitting, that's why we say sit at the center or you have your eyes center with the TVs because you want the best picture quality possible. You sitting too high, the picture quality loses. You sitting too low, the picture quality loses. Even your viewing angle is the same thing. That's the most important thing, and that's the rule that you want to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's right, Ralph. And we would call it the whitewash effect. You do lose picture quality when it comes to not being dead center. So those are a lot of things to consider besides just the neck strain and the eye strain like we're talking about, which is more comfortable. but picture quality does have a huge part of the appropriate height of a TV. All right, Ralph, that's good. That's a lot of good stuff, especially for these types of TVs or for people that have them mounted above a fireplace. What we're going to do is go back to the other room, because Ralph and I, what we're going to do is we're actually going to just remount my TV. So we did a really poor job the first time. We did this. I did this myself, and I didn't have all the appropriate tools, so I kind of butchered it. But this time we're going to kind of fix a lot of things. And then we're putting a new mount on there, because the mount that I have on there, I don't really like it too much. It sits off the wall too much. I decided to go with one that's a little bit more flush. And then, we're going to lower it. We're going to drop it a couple inches, and then we'll show you all what that looks like from the before and after. So, Ralph, let's go back to the other room.
Let's go back.
All right, Ralph. Well, that was a bit of a pain, but we did it, and everything looks good. I'm pretty happy with the results. Now, when I'm sitting at my sofa and I look at it, my eye level is pretty center with the TV.
Absolutely, bro. And like you said, we had some strain. We had to sit there and try to mess around with the leveling and all that stuff to get it right. It's a common practice that you got to consider when you're mounting TVs and stuff like that,
Exactly. And this is not what the video was about. It was really just to show you all like what I was trying to do compared to before and the reason why. And you might be in the same situation too. And as you change furniture, you realize, man, the TV looks way too high now because I have one of those like really low profile media consoles or floating shelves or whatever you got going on. And you can't really afford to or budget to call a person to come out. So sometimes you have to do it yourself.
Absolutely, bro.
But you know what, Ralph, let's get into some final thoughts.
Yes.
So I'll start with you, kind of just to kind of wrap up the video from your perspective. What are some final tips and suggestions, advice you want to give to the viewers out there? Absolutely.
Like it's all up to you, like how you want to mount your TV. If you want it high, you want it low, you want it eye level. It also depends on your couching and all that stuff. If you have a recliner, because sometimes like when you're reclining like this and you're kind of looking up, and if it's something that you're comfortable with, consider that. So anyways, bro, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, Ralph, I mean, the only thing I could add really that we didn't really, or that we haven't already touched up on is I would just say, don't try to be perfect.
Yeah.
You could always use a tape measure. You can try to be exact on the precise center of the TV. I think if you just stick to some of the guidelines we shared, I think you're going to be fine. And like we showed, not everybody's going to have the same type of space. You have media consoles to consider. You have sound bars. You have huge center channels to consider. You have fireplaces. You have decor.
Yeah.
You have all the above. So I would just mount it to meet the middle. What looks the best and what are you most comfortable with? Don't worry about it too much. I would just say stick to some of the rules and just take it from there.
Yeah.
But you know what, Ralph? I think that concludes our video.
Absolutely, bro. So make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification button.
And as always, keep it hi-fi.